So everybody, thanks for joining. A couple things of housekeeping. Everybody who's not a presenter, the camera and chat or the mute or your voice will be muted. That's intentional, but the chat function is open. So if there are any questions, you can filter them in there. We will have a Q&A piece at the end. Anything that doesn't get covered there will be followed up with in a post afterwards. We can bring together some answers for you. So we're going to run through a quick introduction of everybody that's on the call today. So an introduction of Tim, Kevin, and Connor. Then I'm going to turn it over to them to do their due diligence and walk us through Intelinair and AGMRI. Then we'll go through some Q&A, and then we can hop back over to the main session. So I'm going to run through the introduction of Intelinair again, just if anybody missed it. So Intelinair elevates agronomic management decisions by providing insights all season long to farmers and ag retailers through their easy-to-use interactive platform, AGMRI. High-resolution aerial imagery from fixed-wing airplanes, satellites, and drones provide whole field views, increasing efficiency by prioritizing fields and offering assurance that fields are monitored and reviewed for timely decision-making and identifying sustainability opportunities. Intelinair analyzes millions of acres in the U.S. and several other countries from its headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana, take action through informed management decisions at agmri.com. With us today, we have Tim Hassinger, who's the CEO, President, and Chairman of the Board of Directors for Intelinair Inc. Tim brings more than 37 years of experience in the agriculture industry. Prior to being named CEO and President of Intelinair in 2022, he was the CEO of two other companies. First with Dow AgroSciences, the agriculture subsidiary of the Dow Chemical Company, followed by the Lindsay Corporation. At Dow AgroSciences, he held a number of sales, supply chain, marketing, and management roles over 33 years. He was named President and CEO of Dow AgroSciences in 2014 and served in that capacity until mid-2017. From there, he became president and CEO of Lindsay Corporation for 3 years before coming to Intelinair. He grew up in a family farm in central Illinois. Thanks for joining us, Tim. We have Kevin Krieg, who's the Director of Business Development. In this role, he's responsible for developing new business opportunities, building customer relationships, and expanding the Intelinair and AGMRI brands. Prior to joining Intelinair, Kevin spent 24 years at John Deere and 2 years at C&H Industrial. At John Deere, he was part of the Intelligence Solution Group, where he led the release of JD Link solution and then led the team to open up the John Deere Operations Center. At C&H Industrial, he was responsible for the marketing, training, and customer support of the AFS Connect and PLM Connect farm portals. He grew up on the Krieg family farm in Northwest Iowa. And finally, we have Connor Schmidt, who's the sales leader. In his role, he's responsible for the sales process for AGMRI and building customer relationships. Prior to the sales leader role, he served as an account manager for Intelinair. As one of the first employees hired with the AgTech startup, he was responsible for helping to introduce AGMRI, the automated crop intelligence platform to growers and ag retailers in Illinois and Indiana. And being very on brand, he also grew up on a family farm in central Illinois. So guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks to your families for your all's commitment to agriculture. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Tim, to get us started.
Great. Thanks, Andy, and good morning all, and appreciate you joining our breakout session. What we want to cover is just a real quick overview of Intelinair, just to give you a sense of who the company is and what we do. And then we're going to dig into, most of the time is going to be focused on the technology, and then we'll move to a demo. So Kevin is going to give an overview on the technology, and then Connor will take it from there and actually go into the platform and show some live examples from this year. And then what we see as a real critical part of today's breakout session is we want to make sure there's plenty of time for Q&A, and happy to take any of the questions that you have. So let's go to the part here of who is Intelinair, and let me just give you a quick overview of the company. We have 60 employees. Our headquarters, as Andy mentioned, is in Indianapolis, and here's a little more of a breakdown of our business. Our focus today is primarily corn and soybeans. We have the ability to go on other crops. We do have some capabilities in other crops, but a majority of our business is on those two crops. And you can see here from a geographical standpoint, where else we either have business or are actively working with proof of concepts. but a majority of our business is in the Midwest, US Midwest region. Our footprint today covers 9 million acres in terms of where we're capturing data. We've served over 4,000 farmers to date, and currently we're working with a little over 30 retailers. So let's go into the key part here. The next is the AGMRI technology. And Kevin, I'll turn it over to you. And if you could give that overview, that'd be great.
All right, yeah, thanks, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, what I wanted to share with you is, really what Intelinair does and what we do with our AGMRI product. So first, when we look at, what value do we deliver to our customers out there, and the customers are the farmers and ag retailers, we look at in these four areas of, we have the agronomic field insights. So that's really giving you information about what's happening to your crops throughout the growing season and being able to alert you to any issues that is potentially impacting your yield. The second area that we have that really complements that as well is a full-on scouting tool. So that tool is used to be able to go out to the field, grab those observations, and be able to communicate back with others within your organization on what is happening and then how to take action to be able to address that as well. The third area is one where we partner heavy in the nitrogen management space. So we have a couple of partnerships, one with Adapt-N and one with Envision. And those are very complementary, where the Adapt-N is very predictive, give you high management capabilities to really spoon feed and fit that nitrogen exactly to what the crop needs based on a lot of the weather information. While then the Envision is the one that is really looking at how that crop is doing and measuring whether there's a yield loss potential due to a nitrogen deficiency. So that really gives us even more insights from our imagery on how you can make different decisions throughout the season on your nitrogen to make sure you're optimizing that to get the highest yield possible. The fourth area that we focus on is really around field data analytics. What we're doing there is being able to measure more things about that crop, like emergence, like disease pressure, and we'll show a little bit more about that in the future. But really, the idea there is things that don't necessarily get picked up on the yield monitor specifically. We can look at that and see what's impacting your yield. So how we do that then is really on the left-hand side here is kind of the key data sources that we bring in to the AGMRI platform. So as you can see there, we have a lot of different imagery types. So we have satellite, we have the Sentinel 10-meter data, we have Airbus 50 and 150 centimeter data available to us as well. And then we have our fixed-wing airplanes that are really at a high resolution to be able to grab a lot of that unique information as well, and some other layers that Connor will explain how those are used for some of our analytics as well. So that's kind of the main remote imagery ones, along with the drones that can go out there and really get that sub-centimeter type of data. So each one has a purpose, each one has unique value that they bring. But at the end of the day, really, the imagery is coming in on a regular interval throughout that crop season to be able to keep on top of what is happening. And as the crop is changing throughout the year, to measure that and be able to gain those early insights into what is happening on your fields. So that imagery then is combined with weather information, and then again, the machine data. So through the climate FieldView data coming in as well, that's all API'd into us as well. So those three kind of major data sets of remote imagery, of weather information, and machine data then get generated through our middle part, which is our computer vision machine learning analytics. So we have a lot of unique patterns that we can pick out through that imagery, through that weather and machine data. And then we do that to generate out those insights that are on the right-hand side of the screen. So we're really looking early season then on how weeds are impacting your crop. Is there any weed escapes that got past the herbicide application that you had? How well did the crop get established from a stand perspective? Is there any need to replant that crop as well? So are all some of the early analytics and decisions that you can make. Then through kind of the key growing season there, we're looking at low crop health. So how well is that field performing compared to its historical average as well? Are there areas that you have an opportunity to go address? or even on the crop health side, are there areas of the field that are doing really good or total fields that are doing really good that you might want to change your management practices this year to be able to get the most out of that? As we mentioned with the nitrogen management, we're looking for things like nutrient deficiency as well, and being able to alert and point out where those issues are happening. And then we have a thermal camera on the airplanes that's looking for thermal stress. So how is that crop being stressed from a drought or from a disease perspective, to be able to get out ahead of those things that could be robbing yield as well. So that's kind of the mid-season solution that we have. And then we also are looking at the harvestability of that. How is that crop drying down to really help with the logistics? This year, that'll be really valuable with some of the downed corn that happened in Illinois, to be able to know which fields need to get harvested as, you know, at the right time to prevent any of that loss that could potentially happen. So this again is kind of a look at how we go from our imagery through our analytics to develop these insights for our customers that are out there. So all of that stuff then comes together in a really easy to use interface that's available on the web and mobile apps as well. So this allows you to really drill down and be able to see all of that data. And again, we'll show you a lot more of how this works when Connor's in there. But that's really kind of the staple of our solution, as well as our user interfaces. The other thing that this does is it drives collaboration. So there's a lot of tools within the AGMRI platform that allow the farmer, the retailer, the sales, their seed sales, their scouts, whoever it happens to be, can be all on the platform collaborating and help solve those problems for that customer in as efficient way as possible, and be able to kind of do that all season long, and then look back with the tool on the year to understand, well, maybe what impacted that yield at the end of the year that I need to maybe adjust for the upcoming year as well. So that's a look at the user interface side of it. So as we dive a little bit deeper then, kind of what, you know, at a high level, what AGMRI is really good at is efficiently monitoring those crops for insights. So on that upper left-hand graphic there, that's really where we're looking at, hey, we're scanning those millions of acres that Tim mentioned. From that, we're running that through our analytics. The next graphic down there shows then where we look at all of those different potential issues that are happening on the fields that we've covered. From there, then those fields can get divided into, you know, fields that are doing good or fields that need issues addressed with them. And then the lower right-hand graphic there really shows then at that field level, where in the field is that specific issue happening, to really target those boots on the ground scouting events, or if a drone needs to be deployed, where should you send that drone to be able to get more of those insights and close-up view of what's happening in the field. So again, we take it from a large geographical area covering all the fields, narrow that down into which specific fields are good or bad, then where at in those fields are the issues that are happening. So some of the key aspects of the application then is we have our dashboard. So this is really on the mobile and the web, where you would come to be able to get a high level insights into what's happening on those fields. So no different than what I was talking about there before. This is where it shows you what crop stage your crops are at by each individual crop as well. What are the issues happening on those fields? How many fields are in good condition, fair condition, or poor condition? And then any other high level alerts that you need to be aware of to be able to address. So that's at that overall dashboard. And this is used, you know, daily by our users to be able to go in there and see how things are progressing, you know, whether it's for their customers as an ag retailer or for the farmer themselves, on how the crops are progressing across their area. The other area then that you can start drilling down into is at a grower level. So this gives you the ability to look at a specific grower, so that if they're your own farm as well, you can look at them all in a convenient way. But this allows you to see what's happening there and scan through. So the right-hand one on the web app or the left on the mobile, you can quickly scan through all of their fields in a matter of minutes and all of the different layers that we have available, whether that's NDVI, infrared, veg, thermal. All of those images are available quickly to be able to scan through, and you can sort this by planting date or by issues that are happening to really get a good understanding of what's happening on that farmer's fields at this point in time throughout the season. And then from there, you can dive deeper into the fields. You can assign them to a scout. Lots of different management tools that you can use to help figure out and get the most out of the year. The next area then is, so as we kind of go from that overall area to the grower, now to the field, when we're looking at a very specific field, we can see the information about there as far as, when it was planted, what hybrids were there, what was the average emergence, or what was the crop health in that field, and a lot of statistics on that to be able to drive and understand what's happening at that field level. We also tie in a lot of the weather information here. So basically, how much rainfall have I gotten year to date, planting to date, or even between our image captures, we have that data so you can understand kind of what's driving the crop performance in the field at any given time. So then even beyond that, if I want to go deeper, I can then go into an individual field, and through our virtual scout, we have the analytics that we mentioned earlier that are working on every field. In this case here, it's showing where this field, the purple area, is an underperforming area. So what that essentially means is that that area that's in purple right now, it is lagging behind its 4-year average of production in there. So we know that that part of the field is capable of producing more. It's just that this year it is not. So we have to figure out why it is not producing. And that's where it ties in then from the virtual scout into actually the boots on the ground that can go out there and scout that field. So the mobile app on the left is what you would use to navigate to that field, understand where in the field to go look, and then start grabbing those observations and recording what's happening in the field. On the right-hand side, then you can see where that data comes back into the web application as well, or if they're using the mobile app, either one works. But then it shows you the path through the field that the scout took, what were the different issues found at the different points, and any of the documentation that goes with that, from pictures to stand counts to other information that is addressed with that is showing there in the web application to be able to give you insight, and again, collaborate with that team of yours to be able to understand what is happening. This field just so happens to where it was having this, underperforming area is a nitrogen deficiency area. And so you'll see on the next screen here, so back even on July 2nd, we had a nitrogen deficiency alert essentially, and through the Envision, we can see now clearly in the field what is our yield hit due to that nitrogen issue. So this map here, and Connor can show a lot more of it, but essentially it gives us a yield loss, so we can calculate the ROI for doing a late season or an in-season nitrogen application to get us back up to where our yield potential should be on that field. But what this is showing is in the dark blue areas, we're good, right? There's no yield loss due to nitrogen. Light blue, we have about a 10 bushel an acre loss, yellow 30 bushel an acre, and then the red area is a 50 bushel an acre potential loss from yield due to nitrogen deficiency in that area. So that can help drive and guide to where in-season nitrogen applications need to be put in order to maximize what this field can produce for us. So that's a look at the nitrogen management, and specifically the Envision side of that. Then beyond that, what I mentioned earlier, there's kind of that fourth area that we look at is the data analytics side of this. So with the ability to measure things like emergence and disease, we have the ability to look at emergence by hybrid and planting date, emergence by hybrid and soil type, just emergence by soil type as well. So lots of different ways we can look at this to give insights into how well did those hybrids perform in the different environments they were planted into, which again, would show up at the end of the year in a yield degradation on that field, but now we can start understanding why, and we can see, even for example, up here in this emergence by hybrid and planting date, hybrid 3, really probably had more of an impact on when it was planted versus exactly which, hybrid it was. So all those pieces of data can be brought to the forefront to help you understand your seed selection decisions. Then on the disease by hybrid, we see a lot of difference in the disease tolerance of hybrids out there. So with the AGMRI solution, you can now understand which hybrids had the biggest impact from disease and which ones were able to fight it off a little bit better themselves. And then you can also look at this from a fungicide application timing, how many fungicide passes were done on those fields as well, and understand how that impacted your disease risk on those fields. So again, lots of different things we can do from a data analytics as well to be able to give more insights to our farmers and customers out there. A lot of this is all enabled, as I mentioned at the beginning, through the integration with FieldView. So here's just some instructions on. It's really easy to be able to connect your Climate FieldView account to AGMRI. And when you do that, it brings that information in. We have access to your planting data, to any of the spray application data, so we can do more analytics, more alerts on that. So easy to connect those two accounts and get the data flowing. With that, I'll turn it over to Connor to have him give you a demo of how this looks from an agronomic perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. I'll go ahead and take over the screen. Is everyone able to see?
Yes, Connor.
Awesome. So Kevin did a great job covering the different features and the interface of AGMRI. I kind of wanted to take a deep dive on a few fields to showcase some of the in-season decision making and some of the year-over-year management changes. And I want to talk about that because it really shows you how you can get more value out of the machine data you're collecting in climate when it's paired with a higher resolution imagery. So I'm going to start by showing you a weeds example. I'm from Central Illinois. We had a lot of dry weather, and so there was a lot of trouble with weed escapes and actually getting a good kill and good protection from a residual. So we were fighting this a lot, and it really helped improve our efficiency in management of that problem. So on this particular field, we're looking at May 21. In the interface, I got an alert to this, quite a big alert. So 115 acres of weeds, and you can see there's a lot of red on this screen. That means those weeds are very large and far along. So this prompted the grower to go look at this field. When he was out scouting, he had a pretty big issue on water hemp, and interestingly, you can kind of see it's at an angle on here. So there's actually some relationship to some tillage done and how that affected the seed as a side note. Anyhow, one of the things AGMRI is great for, given these analytics, is prioritization. And you can see here on the next day, he actually came out and sprayed this field because he saw that problem. This was out of order versus his plan. And so he moved this up a few days. And that's great. But another great aspect of this, when you have the machine data, is the way we can kind of keep track of when those different applications are happening, and then send you an alert after the fact to make sure those weeds actually died. So on this field here, so sprayed May 22nd, and now I'm on May 31st, we got another weed alert. And so I went out and took a look at that. And you can see there's some of the weed polygons showing up. I went and checked an area that was already sprayed over here where we had weeds the week before. And I was actually able to drop these scouting pins in here, and everyone associated with the operation could see these pictures. The weeds didn't look like they were going to die. So sure enough, a couple days later, he came back and resprayed the field. In AGMRI, if you have your sprayer information connected, we will take that weed pressure and we'll actually change the name after that application if we see weeds to weed escape, so that you can separate that information out and handle that differently or prioritize it accordingly. Moving forward a little further into the season, we're starting to look at field health. So this is May 30. This corn crop here would be about V4, V5 in that area. And so I want to show you our field health map on this. This right here is telling me the current year field health. And you can see the different red and green areas. Something unique about AGMRI is the way we actually look at historical information to make this map right here more meaningful. Because a lot of times these are differences you expect. So when I saw this, it obviously caught my attention and the grower's attention because you have a straight line, and straight lines don't occur in nature. But maybe that was where this field was farmed differently or something like that. If you weren't familiar with it, let's say you were working with this grower, we actually have a way you can go in and check the historical field health of this field. And what we're seeing is actually the field flip-flopped. The area that's normally best, based on the last 4 years of satellite data on this field, is now doing worse. And the area that's normally worse is doing better in this case. So it doesn't match in some of these areas. And so we looked into it and we figured out this was a difference in variety. So we investigated that, and it looked like one of the hybrids planted here did not do well with the conditions. The placement wasn't great. So we kind of took a learning away from that. But while we were looking at it, we noticed something else. I'm going to kind of zoom in here. And we noticed that there's these dark green lines kind of going north and south through this field. So I'm going to go ahead and measure them so you can see what I'm talking about. About right there and there. And so you can see that comes out to about 85 foot. Something that was done differently on this field versus their normal practices, it actually had urea spread on it. So I'm going to pull up the side by side and show you a pretty handy feature when you have machine data logged and you have this high resolution imagery, because things like this don't stand out on a lot of other mapping resolutions. So we can actually go back a year and look at some of the applications made, and we can look at the current year, and I can actually go in and measure right here these areas that are darker green and compare it to the left where I have the machine data. I'm also able to click in here and see what product was applied. So I can see that ESN was applied on December 7th last year, and that the spacing of this pattern I'm seeing on the right matches exactly. And I can also see that the area that's better is in between. So basically what I see here is I identified the pattern. I was able to investigate and compare it to the machine data, and I was able to learn that the urea was being thrown too far. And I'm able to say that definitively. So I know exactly what change I need to make next year. So the urea was being thrown too far, and the areas of overlap were darker green. So after seeing this, we went ahead and figured we should see how short on nitrogen those areas are in between, because it's difficult to know how bad was the spread pattern. So we actually took our nitrogen tool, and I'll show you this here, and we ran it on this field. We were able to see this side has dark blue, sufficient nitrogen, but over here we can see we're losing about 10 bushels an acre due to nitrogen, due to that spread pattern. So now I've quantified how much it costs me to have that poor spread pattern on urea. And I can see right here, dark blue, where it's sufficient, right on top of the pattern there, kind of where there was the overlap, and I know exactly how short I was, and it's quantified. The last tool on here, if I get out of this split screen, you can actually take this this nitrogen loss map and you can convert it to a prescription right in our interface. So you can pick how you're going to address it. You can pick what you're going to apply. You pick a minimum, a maximum rate, and you can actually create the file right here to go address that problem. So 2 values here. We're able to look at this and fix it. We're also able to learn and quantify the issue to see how the management practices need to change next year. So next example, I'm going to show you a little later in the season. So this field, we were brought to it because of this underperforming area. So this alert here is going to look at my current field health, and it's going to compare this map right here, what's good and bad, to my historical field health. And when there's areas that don't align, see, it's ignoring the areas that are always bad. When there's areas that are supposed to be good that are currently doing bad, it's going to send me an alert. So this field was at the top of the list. Looking at the field health, we're able to see again a really straight line in this map right here down the middle. So, you know, this is another one where we know it's not environmental, there's something man-made, and we have machine data. So we're going to try to figure out what exactly went wrong. This alert was caught by one of our customers, and so our Insight Center, one of the resources we have, dug into it for them. And what we were able to find, again, I'm going to go back to last year. I'm going to pull up this tillage, and you can actually see the depth here, and everything's the same. I'm going to pull up the tillage speed now. And we can actually see right to that line last year on this tillage pass that, and there it is, you can see it was a little, the tillage was done a little slower on the west end of the field versus the east end of the field. And now you're seeing on these beans a reduction in plant health and likely emergence. So again, this was something that no one could really explain because it didn't match up with anything that had been done. Because we have that machine data coming in from climate, we're able to compare that and understand what exactly happened and get some answers on the problem to fix it. So one more example I want to show you guys from a year past. We're just getting into this disease timing. And something very unique about our fixed wing offering is the thermal. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. Our thermal imagery can actually allow us to pick up disease early. So the plant will actually elevate temperature before there's visual symptoms in a lot of cases. So what we're able to see here is this area of heat kind of coming off the field boundary in this wispy pattern up there. And if I look at the week prior on thermal, the headlands are a bit hot, which is normal, but I can't see that temperature. So from one day to the next, or one flight to the next, I'm seeing an increase in temperature and kind of that windblown pattern. And I'm comparing that against just how my plant looks on this NDVI. And if I switch between these two, in that same area where the temperature increased, I don't see any change in the health. This tells our thermal analytics to trigger. So we actually flag this area and alert you to the field. This is a really helpful tool if you're trying to determine, let's say, a dry year, a year that was dry like this, you know, in Illinois and Iowa and some of these areas, if you should spray or not, if there's going to be disease. This tool can really help figure out which fields have the disease. And the great thing is you can tell from this little pin speck of southern rust, it picks it up early so that you can still maximize your ROI and prevent the proliferation of that disease through the field and the severity and all of that. So those are 4 different examples I wanted to touch on. The weed escapes and how we can really help identify those and prioritize. The field health, how we can identify patterns and how fertility products are being applied for year-over-year changes, and also how we have tools to fix them yet in season and quantify. The tillage example, which really helps fine-tune management practices and help you understand how much does it cost to go a little faster or slower and in which conditions, and really quantify that and be factual about it. And then our early disease detection to help with timing, or in some cases, even if a field's been sprayed, to know, at the end of July, early August, if you have disease coming in again, like southern rust or tar spot, and help you isolate those fields and make a better decision. With that, I'm going to turn it back over.
Great. Thanks, hey, Connor and Kevin, for the overview. Andy, what I would suggest is let's take some questions from the group here, if any exist, and we want to just really focus here before we go into that, just what we see as some key takeaways. When you look at FieldView and AGMRI, we really see this as very complementary and increasing and enhancing productivity. Also the point, and I believe both Kevin and Connor brought up the value of machine data integration and the fact that it's easy to use platform in terms of the coordination or the connection with FieldView, and then just the next level of insights that can be seen from a full season long time frame. So with that, guys, I think let's get some thoughts, comments, questions out, and we'll be happy to try to address them.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And I mean, we've got some questions, and feel free to throw more in the chat if you have any that are top of mind. One thing that I'd also add, and Connor and I, in my past role out in the field, we worked together, and one key takeaway that I have is really the value of that in-season insight. And a lot of the insights we've had in precision agriculture and digital agriculture are comparing planting data, application data with harvest data, and looking at what happened after the fact. But having these kind of insights where you can go out there and actually make a decision in season to impact the current year crop is huge. And that's where I see a lot of value, and I've seen retailers see value working with AGMRI. So if we want, so we can go through some questions. So first one I'll pose them to you, Tim, and then you can discern them out as you see fit. But how does AGMRI compare to other platforms that are out in the market today, and what makes you all different?
Yeah, so let's zero in on the points of what we see as differentiation. And Kevin, if you could take that, appreciate it.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that is different about us is that we really do that fence row to fence row with the right resolution to make those decisions in season, like Connor showed, right? So there's a lot of application issues, patterns in the field that you can see at the right resolution by having that fence row to fence row look at your field throughout the entire season. The other kind of area that I would say is that really makes us different as well is on that collaboration. A lot has been built into this that, people have said, farmers don't farm alone, right? And so that collaborating on the platform to allow them to be able to share that information and everybody see what's happening on those fields, like Connor was showing there, really then helps get everybody to understand what really is the problem that needs to be corrected and address it for that season or even next season.
Yeah, great. And that, I think Greg mentioned it in the main session, that we want digital to be a daily and essential tool for that farmer decision making, but farmers aren't making those decisions in a silo. And we've seen that ourselves in FieldView. The majority of our growers that are ingesting data onto climate are taking it and sharing it to, a retailer or a seed professional, because they want that consultative and collaborative experience around the data that they have. So that's a great insight. Yeah, so let's see, what do we got next? Tim, I think you still are a presenter. I saw that question come in there. Anything interesting you're seeing this season or that you're watching for right now?
There's a couple that really jump out, and let me give you an overview on them, and then I'll just ask Connor and Kevin to kind of bring it alive with some examples that they've been seeing. The two that really jump out at me is we have seen some large farmers bring their network of input suppliers, whether it's the retailers, their seed companies, et cetera, and bring them on the platform. And Kevin, I think you used a phrase that, it's takes a community to the farm type approach. And that collaboration has really been positive in terms of the feedback. So let me stop there. Connor, you're really in the middle of that. Do you want to give a little color to what you're seeing on that?
Yeah, unmuted, yep. A huge success in my mind this year has been the engagement in our product, and it's been driven by the ability to collaborate in our tool. So with the different analytics to kind of prioritize where to look and what you're looking for, we also have the scouting tool, which I showed for a moment. But there's a robust area in the platform. It tracks who was scouting, when they scouted, what they were looking for. They can add their notes, all of these different items. And maybe the biggest hit, there's a notification that pops up on your cell phone whenever someone scouts. When they confirm that report, it says Connor Schmidt scouted your field, and you tap it and it takes you right to that field. And so what I've seen is these large growers, they have so many people that are involved in their day-to-day operation. They've given them all accounts, so they're all in one working environment. And the grower, as well as the different people that work with them, are all scouting and using it now as a communication. And so the notes have gotten used in a much different way than I would have thought. They were assigning fields to people. If they saw an issue and a certain chemical was the problem, they would just assign it right in the platform to their provider that needed to go look at that, and so on and so forth. And it's been very fun and very valuable for everyone involved.
Yeah.
No, appreciate that, Connor. That I agree, and we've seen an increased engagement of all the individuals by being part of a team effort related to that. So that clearly, Andy, has been one that I would say. And the other one that I want to highlight here that we started talking about last year, but it's really come to life this year, and we refer to it as the look back, is if you think of the information that Kevin and Connor have showed, is how to manage and provide information and managing the crop, this year's crop. But there's also value of having all of this data in one place to go back and really look at what learnings, what could we have done differently, what would we want to do next year different than we did this year. Kevin, you want to just, again, just like Connor did, bring some color to that with a few examples of where you've really seen the look back provide value.
Yeah, the look back helps us. I mean, for example, on some of the stuff that we're seeing this year as well, right? Where, I mean, we're starting to see it develop throughout the year, but I think that at the end of the year, where like residue and residue management has a big impact on the crop health right now, and we're anticipating will have a big impact on the crop yield at the end of the year. So being able to do kind of what Connor showed as well with the tillage applications, the tillage speed, all of that, to be able to get more insights then into how well are your management practices of tillage then impacting your final yield. So being able to look at all of those factors throughout the year to really start narrowing in on what was the biggest impactors to yield for that field through that look back.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, Tim.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, and I saw there was a tactical question that came in the chat, and this is kind of going back to that looking backwards retrospective, but when looking at historical field health, how far can you go back? How far can you look back?
Well, we've got the data. We keep the data for whatever years a farmer has worked with us. So all of that field. So that, to your point, I'm glad you brought that up, Andy. That's a good comparison that will often happen is where was this field, and even more specifically, this zone in a field compared to last year, as an example. We're starting to see a lot of traction with that capability.
Yeah, that year-over-year analysis. I think that goes back to part of what you showed, Connor, right? That the one field where they did the different speeds for tillage year-over-year.
Exactly.
Great analysis there.
Correct. Yeah, the maps are averaging 4 years of data from July, which is correlated to yield.
Awesome.
And I guess I'll just add a note on the product side of that too. I mean, that was really driven from customer feedback, right? Because those alerts and kind of even that first question of how do we compare to other platforms, right? A lot of platforms, they look at NDVI, and low NDVI is kind of, the lookout area. But what we found was, right, well, that some of those areas of the field always don't produce as well as other areas of the field. So that historical comparison allows us to kind of eliminate those and then only alert truly to the areas that, can produce, that gives you a, ability to address that in season. So that's kind of where that came from, customer feedback on really fine tuning exactly where they need to be paying attention to on their fields and getting that to them quickly.
Yeah. So another question we have, and, kind of thinking to that, looking at multiple years of data, digging out insights. I know you mentioned that you have an insight center, but if I were to start using, or a customer were to start using AGMRI, where would they start? What kind of support would they receive at enrollment time, throughout the season, throughout the years?
Yeah. So, Kevin, why don't you give an overview of the starting point, and then I'll address the Insight Center at the end of just how that works.
Okay, you bet. So, the best place to start is agmri.com. And from there, you can sign up. Also, though, I would recommend talking to your ag retailer, others. There's a lot that are using the platform today and can help provide that local support for it as well. So those are kind of two big ways, agmri.com, or talk to your local retailer and get signed up through them. And then we also, I would say, that's where, when you create that account, that's where that connection to the FieldView platform comes in. And, through the sign up process, you can connect that, pull across your fields, your boundaries, and all of that data that is associated with those farms that we have in the past. So we can start building that historical data set and start giving you some of those insights that Connor showed around weed escapes and planting emergence and different issues that could happen from the machine data that we pull in there as well. So that's a good place to start.
Yeah. So Andy, if you take where Kevin dropped off, let's say you're a retailer and you are working with one of your key farmer customers. You both could be on the platform. And then the next step, and you brought it up, is what we call our Insight Center. And that's a team located here in Indianapolis that literally are looking at fields and looking for potential insights that can be added value. So in addition to what the customer is seeing and the information that's being pushed out to them, we also have a group that's just coming over the top, trying to find trends and then really drive further insight if they can really get that information out of the data.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's, ag retailers and farmers are some of the most busy people in the US.
Absolutely.
And, there's all these data layers that come in, and having, a support group that can help you dig out those insights is huge.
So and Andy, I'll build on that. You're absolutely right. So we launched this last year, and like anything brand new, you get a lot of good learnings, and that was probably one of the key learnings. Is one of the best deliveries of it was kind of an old-fashioned, simple way. Is we would just have the person in the Insight Center do a quick audio video of just what's going on and shoot it to the retail salesperson. And then they could just listen to it while they're doing something else, to just say, hey, this field and this field over here are two that you may want to take a look at as soon as possible.
Awesome. Yes, the next one kind of ties into that too. And it's kind of broad, but thinking about the Insight Center working with the ag retailers, or just ag retailers working with the tool, what kind of agronomic or management questions can you answer with AGMRI? What kind of things are they doing?
Yeah. So here's a great one. Connor, you live this daily. And so why don't you give a sense of what are the typical common questions you're getting and where you think AGMRI has been able to add value to that?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to focus on year over year, since we didn't talk about that much. We have data analysis where we take the results from the season and we start to aggregate it and look at it across different dimensions. Some of the questions we'll answer on that. Where were my hybrids placed? How did they perform on emergence or disease? So you can better understand how the placement and the weather might correlate to emergence and quantify that, and then take it to yield. Same thing could be towards your management practices. The example I showed you on speed, you could cut the emergence data by the speed of your equipment to answer, should I be doing something different with my tillage, with my applications? Another one would be products, looking at different products and how they performed across your entire operation. The real differentiator there is we can add more agronomy to those views. Typically, like you said earlier, you're cutting the as applied against the yield. We can tell you what happened in the middle and the agronomic driver of that outcome, which can help you make better year over year decisions. So which hybrid should I plant? Where should I plant them? We can help there. Do I need to change any of my practices or optimize? We can help answer that question. Which products perform best and why? We can really help on that as well.
Awesome. Appreciate that. So, really, as we think about going to the future and all of these digital tools are only going to continue to advance and people are going to keep seeing value in them and keep leveraging them. What's next on the horizon, for you all? What are the plans for 2024 for AGMRI?
Yeah. So, Andy, let me just talk a little bit about what we did this year, and then we'll start about the transition going into next year. And Kevin, I'll take this year, and then why don't you talk about where we're going to go for 2024. This year, and Kevin and Connor both talked about each of these, is we're really excited about having 2 nitrogen recommendation tools that we've brought on, the Adapt-N and then also Envision. So the whole fertility and specifically nitrogen management, we want to really be able to add a lot of value in that space. So those were significant adds for us. And then probably the biggest one was the acquisition of Acre Technologies. So that gave us drone capabilities. So really complements the portfolio that we have in terms of the type of analytics that we're able to generate. So those have been the 2, I'd say, big changes in 2023. So as we look towards 24, Kevin, you want to talk about how, where we're going related to that?
Yeah, so for 2024, I mean, it's really building on what we've already developed over the past, 8-10 years here, right? So that's really driving more analytics to be able to understand more of what's happening in the field, in season, early as we can in order to get out ahead of those issues and get them addressed. And that's really, I mean, as Tim mentioned, is, nitrogen is one of the key things that we brought out this year, and we'll continue to expand on that too, to be able to make the nitrogen management even better. And then the other focus area, I would say, is one thing that we've mentioned a lot, but we're really starting to see the power of this and the impact. And so we're going to add a lot of fuel to that fire, is around the collaboration. So even more and more tools on how I can collaborate and work virtually on the AGMRI platform to be able to get everybody that needs to be in the know with the information they need and make those good decisions that Connor was talking about that can be made from the application, to make that easier to collaborate and get down to root cause and how to address it.
Excellent, exciting stuff. And I did have one other one that came in while I was driving into work today, and I was talking to a field rep, and they were talking about growth staging and how that, a tool like that is so valuable in season for making decisions. And, I know when you were going through the demo, I don't know if it was you, Kevin, or Connor, who mentioned growth staging. Can you all talk about how people are leveraging that?
Yeah. So Connor, do you want to jump in, because you're the one that's been involved in the middle of that?
Yeah, sure. So we kind of have 2 ways of doing this. What we show on the product today is growing degree units based on planting date. If you provide a planting date, all of the fields will tell you how many growing degree units they have and what stage it's most likely to be at because of that. That can really help with when our analytics trigger, understanding what type of problems a field might be experiencing, because you can look at it in relation to where the crop's out. The context really helps you understand, is this a problem or not that I am seeing this particular issue. I assume you're talking more advanced. Can the imagery figure out the growth stage of the crop? The answer is somewhere in the middle. We can see canopy closure. We can see when the crop starts to senesce, if we're capturing imagery at that time, and we have analytics for that. And we can see when the crop emerges, typically around 300 growing degree units is when we can start to say definitively the crop has emerged. So we can see kind of the milestones, but we cannot capture the image and tell you it's 3 leaves versus 4.
Yeah. So Andy, it really plays a little bit to your question, your prior question. We agree with you. This is an area where value can be added, and so we're putting time and investment in this space to be able to enhance that capability.
Awesome. Yeah, boy, we need a really high resolution image to see in the individual leaves. But yeah, we can always strive for that. This time I'm just going to ask any other questions out there. Drop them in the chat. If not, we can move forward and we can talk on additional opportunities for contact, Tim.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say thanks for the folks that have joined us, and we hope that this has added some value. But however, there may be a question that you get home tonight and say, gosh, I wish I would have asked that. So a couple different areas. First of all, Intelinair.com and or AGMRI.com can get you a lot of the information that you saw today if you want to follow up on anything. If you want to schedule a demo, more of a private demo, so you can get your specific questions, we're happy to do that. And also, here's the email addresses for the 3 of us, and we have no problem with any of you reaching out to us, and we'd welcome the communication, and we'll make sure we get the right person to come back to you. So with that, Andy, we just really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this.
Well, no, we appreciate you all joining, and I can, like I said, I can speak firsthand to seeing the value of this out in the field, and working with dealers and growers and getting that access to those in-season actionable, deliverables that we can do to help farmers become more profitable, and that's the end goal for everybody. So